Well, let's cast our minds back 48 hours or so. I'm sure that won't be unhappy for you, that win at Bristol Rovers. In retrospect now, how pleased were you with that performance and that result?
Yeah, very, very much pleased with the performance. It's a results business, Matt, as we all know. But we've always believed, as most do in football, that if you get your performances right, results will follow. And when you play as we did at Bristol, I think on the night we'd have been good enough to beat most in this division, or something, if not beat them, compete with them. So it was a good performance. I think large periods of domination, 2 smaller 10-minute spells. I recall that Bristol Rovers took control of the ball, gave us a few issues. But yeah, I think on the night it was a really good away, solid team performance, and that pleased us.
I think a lot of fans would have looked at the injury to Jordan Graham, who's been one of your star players. I think there's no doubt about that in his first part of the season. I wondered what you might do, looked even at the team sheet and thought, is this going to work? But how gratified were you that how well that worked?
Yeah, listen, Jordan Graham has been an outstanding player for us. He is an outstanding talent, and more importantly, he's a brilliant lad. He really is. And we worked hard to bring him in, but when we knew that Jordan was going to be a little issue, we had to work on different things on the training ground. So credit goes to largely to Paul Rayner, and for putting on sessions that provided that shape, that discipline within the shape, that profile of the team to go forward and win. And we've been without key players, Matt, since the start of the season. I don't think they've missed players, but not to the extent we've missed key players. We've seen Mark Byrne go out before we could really put pen to paper. Stuart O'Keefe, massive player for us last season, not kicked the ball. We've seen Carl Dempsey go out in the opening day. We've seen Jacob Mellis go out. Now we've seen Jordan go out. It's really been a heartache watching what you would term players that win his games go out on a regular basis. And we've had to continually find a way. But we've got a terrific group. They work so hard. They believe in each other. And we're just delighted that we got the win, and we showed the right reaction to what arguably easily was a very poor first 60 minutes against Exeter last Saturday.
And this run that you're on now, 3 wins and a 1 draw in League One. I mean, I know you were saying the performances during that 5-game losing streak against some of the bigger sides that you still felt the performances were there. But how important has it been to have that momentum, if you like?
Yeah, I think we've just touched on it a few minutes ago, Matt, and I know we spoke about it off here, is that football's a results business. I hear managers complain when they don't win games, they lose their job, and from a distance, I feel for every one of us, because we're in a very unique little profession of 72 managers in the Football League. But arguably, if you're an owner, a chairman, a supporter, you want to see your team win games. And if you don't win games on a regular basis, you can have all the possession in the world. I've had a couple of coaches talk about it this week. You can have all the possession, all the good play, and lose games. And that's what it gets you the sack. So in that 5-game run where we didn't win, we really should beat Sunderland. We really should beat Fleetwood. That's just based on the performances. But that doesn't win you games, because goals win you games. And it's really interesting. I heard Grant McCann, who recently went to Hull, and Paul Lambert was doing what Paul Lambert does, and saying they had all the possession, all the play, and they got beat 3-0 at home, and it was unfair. And I looked at Grant McCann's words, and he said, possession's never won a football match in his life. It's with goals. And that's how we felt in that period against Sunderland and Fleetwood likes that. So we got back on the discipline of securing points and winning games, and that's what we'll be measured on. It's simple.
And you'll be measured again on Saturday, obviously against Swindon, a team in the bottom reaches, I suppose, of the division. But I know you think a lot of them and their expansive style. They had a topsy-turvy game against Crewe midweek. But what do you make of them overall as a challenge?
Oh, they're a terrific side. They really are. You look at the performance at Crewe. They're 2-0 up. They could have been 3-4-0 ahead. They made the chances. They play some wonderful football. They've got several players I can name off the top of my head who contribute to that type of performance. They've got an attack-minded football brain of a coach in John Sheridan. He's left a big club in Wigan to go there. And Swindon Town is a football club with an owner who's played for me. He's tried to recruit me a few times in League Power. And what Lee's done is he's always put managers in that play in a style that brings a big attraction to watching Swindon. So they'll come to Priestfield. They'll try and secure lots of the ball, and they're a real dangerous opponent for us, real dangerous opponent. But we all know what the rewards for us. The rewards for us is a win, and a win would take us on the cusp of the playoffs, and that would be remarkable for this group, considering the players we've been without, and remarkable for such a young group that's just come together in July and August.
I think almost imperceptibly, perhaps that's just me, but you've got to the 12th in the division, and as you say, just a few points off the playoffs as well, having perhaps been looking over your shoulders a little bit a few weeks before. I mean, you have to keep the faith, I know, as a manager, but kicking on now, do you think the top 6 is possible for Gillingham?
Oh, for sure it's possible. I think we've played teams in that top 6 and deemed it very unfortunate we didn't take points. Now, where you've got bigger worries as a manager, if you're not playing well, you're not creating chances, and you're losing 2 and 3-0. You have a big problem then, because you've got nothing to grab to, nothing to work on the training ground. Our performances in those games were terrific. It's, so that run set aside, we now then had to change strategy a little bit, where it come purely results as opposed to at times working on certain patterns of play. But we've got those results. But mid-table's no man's land, isn't it? We're a bit like, we can look down a little bit, we can look up a little bit. But we all know, we said to the players before Bristol, we got 2 games. If we could take the 6 points, little words, big meaning. If we could take the 6 points, you'll be in the cusp of the playoffs. Crowds are going to be coming back into the stadiums sooner rather than later, whether that be a percentage or whether it be full as this vaccine kicks in. What a wonderful thing we would have is being near that playoff, if not in that playoff group. And suddenly, Priestfield got opened up to spectators. I think we'd have 5-figure crowds. I think we'd be 10, 11,000 there. I think they'd be right behind us. I think they believe in these unprecedented times. It could be the season we go to the championship. But we have to put ourselves in that position to give the belief to our supporters, who are, let's be honest, they are the lifeblood of this football club.
And just personnel-wise, looking at Saturday, I know from a Wednesday evening to Saturday lunchtime kickoff, you had talked about rotating your squad. What's the fitness looking like? Is it not a question of that? Is it about just protecting the players a little bit on Saturday?
Well, it's about recovering the players. It's not often does Gillingham Football Club have the same issues that Liverpool Football Club have in terms of turning the players around. But Jurgen Klopp was having a right pop last week, wasn't he, about the scheduling of the games, when they had to go and play at Brighton for a 12 o'clock kickoff or a 1 o'clock kickoff after playing in the Wednesday evening. Well, we just got back to Medway at 2 o'clock in the morning on the allows of Thursday, and we have to turn that around and be ready for a 1 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. So we're experiencing that, which is a little bit different. So it's about recovering the boys that played, a little bit more work for the lads that didn't play, having a look downstairs in the treatment room. Is there anyone coming in and out that we'll know in the next half hour? And then myself and Paul will probably got ideas in our team already. And then we'll freshen things up and get ready for tomorrow.
Just finally, and it is a little bit look back to Wednesday, but you talked about the versatility of some of your players, but you saw obviously putting Tom O'Connor back at left back, Conor Ogilvie moving across into the centre of defence, and Dominic Samuel playing that number 10 role as well. Those players seem to have repaid you on the flexibility of your squad. Yeah,
listen, they're all good players. They're all good lads. I think we spoke about why we put Conor there. We wanted 2 players that had played against Brandon Handon, and not look at him and think, well, he's not the biggest, he doesn't look the strongest, is he that good? We know how good Brandon is. He's a terrific player. But we knew that Jack Tucker and Conor Ogilvie and Tommy had all come up against him in training lots of times, played with him, seen the problems he gave to defenders. So we wanted players that knew what they were going to face. And Tommy O'Connor is a very natural left back anyway. So it was very easy. And I think the biggest credit we give our players is that Brandon didn't have his best of nights and they dominated.
Just a quick one, sorry, last one, a bit of housekeeping. I know you talked about Jacob Mellis and the progress of Stuart O'Keefe as well. You felt Jacob might just be a few weeks away perhaps from coming back into training. How is he at the moment? How's that progressing?
He's progressing well. He's been out training. Our intention was to give him 4 or 5 days of training, which he's had, drop him out for 4 or 5 days just to make sure the medical side are happy with him. He's on schedule to be with us way before Christmas, which is absolutely terrific. Stuart O'Keefe, they're telling me in the building he's on schedule for a February appearance, and I'll wait to see that one. But he's out and he's running and he's sprinting, and so starting to kick the ball, etc. But you're going to miss Stuart Keefe, you're going to miss Mellis. These are big players for us. They're game changers. And the one thing we already know, Matt, is we need to be stronger as a group and a better team in the second half of the season to make that playoff group. But historically, when all the listeners in your show go and do the stats, then Evans and Rangers teams are particularly strong in the second half of the season because we find a way to strengthen in the January window. And that's the intention with the blessing of the chairman for this season.
And actually, sorry, that does lead me to another question, everyone. I do apologise. But looking at January, and it's not far away now, obviously, scouting, I'd imagine, is not as easy as it was, given the restrictions you're under. You have clear targets for January, and can you give us an idea of how many you might want to bring in and how many will be possible?
I think 3 or 4 is possible. Mixture of, can be a mixture of permanent signings. As our chairman said on Tuesday, they can all be permanent. It could be a mixture of permanents and loans. We certainly have identified positions, and within those positions, we've identified players that we like. Conversations with clubs and agents of players have already started to happen. Very tentatively with agents, but more concrete with clubs, because we have to understand if they're in their plans or not. If they're in their plans, they're not good at us talking about it. So we have to have an understanding in the next 10 days, at the latest probably 7 days, as to what players are available. And then we have to make our representations to our chairman, our plan and what we want to do. And we've set some time aside for myself and the chairman to sit down away from the football club, have a coffee and just digest what we want to do in January.
And obviously there's grants coming from the Premier League as well, the news yesterday. What difference does that make to you as a manager? Is it just purely one for the chairman? Is it somewhat of a relief, though, for the club as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's one for the chairman. It's relief. Nothing that we do in January will increase the budget from where it is now. The chairman's made it clear. He pays what this football club can afford to pay. And, you know, we're not going to be a Bury. We're not going to be a Bolton. And he doesn't want, he's 25 years longer serve as chairman in the EFL, and he protects it, viciously protects it. And I think he would use that word himself. And also, you know, this football club is in the hearts of thousands and thousands of people, and we can't take that away. We're putting ourselves in trouble. So there'll be no more spend, but we have to spend, as the chairman is always saying, let's spend the resources as best we can. And I'm saying tops that, we're saying value for money. We've had real value for money with the squad we've got. But can we get better value money? That's a challenge to myself.
I suppose the challenge also will be, presumably you'll have to lose players from the budget if you're going to bring in as well.
Yeah, of course. You know, there's no way we're just going to go and sign 3 and 4 players and add to the group. That's never going to be part of the plan. So, you know, we'll have a look at the contribution that each player has made. Sometimes that comes down to minutes on the pitch. Sometimes they can be unfortunate through selection or injury. That has to become down to it. But we have to then build a squad on paper that we say, can this squad put us in or in contention for a top 6 place? You won't know, we won't know that as a management team till the end of January, but we're certainly going to try.
Thanks, Steve. That really is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. I'm going to bring in Andrew from ITV Meridian. So, Gaffer, if you're happy to carry on. Andrew,
yep.
It's yours.
Great stuff, lovely. You've touched on a lot of great stuff there, Steve. Thank you. One thing you were mentioning was about fans eventually coming back and how great that will be. Just looking ahead to this weekend when some clubs are, you know, having fans back, I was just wondering, on a competitive front, do you think it is fair, obviously, with Gillingham fans not able to attend tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair from a fans' point of view. I think around the country as football people, I'm just pleased that whatever clubs, you know, Cambridge can get 2,000 people in. I just look at it all. I'm just pleased that some clubs' supporters, who are the lifeblood of those clubs, can get in to see the clubs and the teams that they love. So that's point one. Point two, is that an advantage to those clubs? Yes, I think it is. I think if you go there, and I think a couple of thousand people can influence certain things to go in their favour. We're going to be missing that. We don't have any scepticism about it, or any anger, or any discourtesy. We just think they're fortunate to have it. We'd love to have it, and I know how much the fans make a difference at Priestfield, especially in that Rainham end. And that's not knocking any other supporters in the Gordon Road and they're brilliant as well. But the Rainham end help us, I believe, get goals and decisions late in games, and that happens elsewhere. So, but that's a slight disadvantage. But we'll go on with it, and we'll respect the fact that the fans are coming back, and sort of this virus and vaccine kicks in, and we can get back to some sort of normality and get fans back in the ground. You see what it means to people. I'm often in the town. I go for fuel. I do my shopping in the town, and people are often saying to me they can't wait to be back. So, as I say to them, they are the lifeblood. It was great to see them.
Fantastic. As you mentioned, you're on this beginning, hopefully, of a great run. What's the feeling in training? Do you notice it when results are going for you?
Oh yeah, I think you learn with experience over the time. You learn that when you bring your squad in, win, lose or draw, you have to have a positivity within your squad and within your camp. I don't think you can get too high when you get some really good results. I don't think you can get so low when it goes against you. I think you have to keep it on a level. You have to be honest with your group. You have to let them be aware that, like last Saturday when performances dip, you have to tell them. When performances at the top end of the level, such as on Wednesday at Bristol, you tell them that as well. But it becomes a level atmosphere in the training ground, because we have to focus always on the next performance. And as I say in football, as you pretty well know, that you're only as good as your last game, or you might only be as good as your next one. So we're focused on Swindon. We're focused on the challenges that will bring a different challenge to Bristol, different challenge to Charlton in recent weeks, but a challenge nonetheless.
And with it being such a busy period, particularly over the festive period, as a manager, do you sort of look ahead, or is it very much a case of just one game at a time, or are you able to, or can you plan ahead?
Yeah, of course you plan ahead, because there's a lot of organisation has to get with games going ahead in the future. However, what you learn in football is there's no point in us thinking 2 and 3 weeks ahead. We have to think of Saturday. Of course, we'll have an eye on what the plans are for Wednesday and the following Saturday when it comes to travel and such like, and maybe personnel and potential suspensions with cautions, etc. But in saying that, all of it, we're only in sole focus now is trying to get a positive result against Swindon on Saturday, and that will be tough. This is a team that have beaten the top teams. They have lost to mid and bottom teams. We will find out what type of Swindon turn up on Saturday, but we'll measure it on our performance as we always do.
Steve, thank you very much. Best of luck tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I've got Ben, Joe, and Lewis left. I think Ben's just observing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. So I'll allow Lewis and Joe to decide who goes next.
Lewis, well, I've only got a couple, so I'll nip in. Thank you, Steve. Good to see you. Just about you're looking up rather than down in the table now. I still think it's fair to say that Gillingham are sort of under the radar. You always have been. You've never liked to be the centre of attention, even when you went on that great run last year. Is that still the case now, that you go under the radar, and hopefully when we get to March, April, you're still in and there and thereabouts?
Yeah, I think we go under the radar because I think within the league, other managers and journalists like yourself understand that with the smallest budget in League One, people just think they think it's hideous and impossible for you to aim for the top 6. They think it's impossible, and therefore they say, they might have a couple of good results. They've got a couple of bad ones. They'll finish down at the bottom end. We don't feel like that. We feel we've recruited a lot of good players in the summer, a lot of good young players, and to a detriment, we've had big players for us, key players at different stages have been out. So if we can, as always, when you need a promotion season or a playoff season, you need your best players to be fit for the majority of the time, particularly in the second half of the season. And you need to have a really good January when it comes to a transfer window. Now, that might mean keeping what you've got rather than adding to what you've got. But we've certainly got some targets we'd like to add to the group, and we need to get that balance of the group right. For second half of the season, I think it'll change a little bit because crowds will be coming in, whether that's percentage of full, and that will change it from the first few months of the season, which has been really difficult for all teams to get their heads around and play.
And when you look at, you mentioned the crowds there, when you look at the current situation, where we are now, the current climate in Kent, does it, obviously you wouldn't say that it's a concern of more, you can't get fans back in. But how much of a worry is it that it could be a few months yet before you do see fans back here in Kent?
Yeah, I think the worry would be if we seen you get 2,000 fans against you in an away game can be an advantage to the home side. I think the worry is if it gets opened up more than that, and we're still in Tier 3 in Midway and Kent, I think that becomes a bigger problem if we are going away to a Sunderland with 25,000 in the stadium, to an Ipswich 15-20,000 in the stadium, to a Portsmouth probably percentage-wise 16-17,000 in the stadium. That would be a huge disadvantage versus when no fans win the Priestfield is one of those stadiums that it doesn't matter whether you're the manager of Sunderland, Ipswich, Portsmouth, the bigger clubs. When you come to Priestfield, there's going to be an atmosphere if the team's at it and playing well. There's going to be an atmosphere that makes it difficult for you. So that would be the big disadvantage. But at the minute, it's not majorly so. From a virus point of view, we've got to hope that this mini lockdown that we've all had, a lockdown that we've had in Tier 3 in Midway and Kent, subsides. Hopefully on the 16th, the government might bring it down to Tier 2. That's just a hope rather than what it is. The more important thing is now we've got this vaccine, and the most important thing is that too many people have been lost in this pandemic. Lives have been lost. So let's get as many people vaccinated as possible and stop it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Best of luck tomorrow.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Kosh. So I'm going to finish up with Lewis. So it's all yours.
Yeah, just a couple left really, Steve. Obviously, it was very successful, like Matt said, on Wednesday without Jordan Graham. Is there a sort of time scale set on his return at all?
No, I think there's not. I think it's them. He's got a mild hamstring strain. I think even when the hamstring is recovered, you know how these things work. It's given the weather, given the colder conditions, the medical team will give it a risk of percentage chances that he could damage that hamstring again. That's not really a consideration for us, because then that takes it to 8 and 10 weeks. We're nowhere near that. We're probably days, maybe a week or so away. I don't know, but we have to make sure that when Jordan comes back into the group, he's 100% fit. Probably trained for 4 or 5 days, and there's no issue. But he's such a big player for us. As was Dempsey when we missed him. As was O'Keefe. As is Mellis now. They're such big players for us. We are not a Sunderland, Portsmouth, Peterborough that have squads of 25 and have benches like would all probably start for most other clubs. So we need our best players to be fit.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dempsey there, and I know you spoke about it after the Wimbledon game, but it really seems like we are starting to see the best of the captain now.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely stunning in the second half of Bristol Rovers. I thought he's run and set up for the second goal summed up what Carl Dempsey's all about. He's an absolutely brilliant footballer. He's a brilliant lad. When you break it all down, he's a brilliant lad. He cares. He's passionate. We love working for him. Working with him, not for him. He works for us, but we love working with him. And he's a leader by demonstration. He's certainly not a leader verbally. That's not Carl's style. He reduces performances and does the type of things that he wants others to follow, and that's what we tell the group. We didn't pick a captain this season based on vocality. We based it on action.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Just touching on Swindon, does it make the game? Is the game perhaps a little bit more awkward with the fact they have a relatively new manager, or is it pretty much the same because obviously John Sheridan's style?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not knocking anyone in football managing because it's a real tough gig, but I think everyone expected Swindon to make a change, and I think everyone raised a little eyebrow when they got John Sheridan. He's a top class manager, came from a good club in Wigan, come up against Shez many times, real football man, as is the chairman down there, I know particularly well. This is a real tough game for us. They've got good players. They'll be prepared when they come here. They'll be organised. They'll be disciplined, and we'll have to produce a real good performance like we did at Bristol if we've got any thoughts of taking the points. But we know what a win makes. A win makes us on the cusp of the playoffs. It would be an absolutely incredible achievement from these players.
And just finally, sorry to sound a bit repetitive, but I remember you saying a few weeks ago that you sort of accepted that fans weren't going to be in stadiums this season. Hopefully that won't be the case at Priestfield, but the vaccine must be like an early Christmas present for you, because I think you've made it quite obvious that fans are your biggest motive to win football matches. Oh,
they are. I think I've said it as an opposition manager coming to Priestfield. I always found it intimidating and difficult. I used to say to my players, don't give the Gillingham boys a sniff, because these fans get so vocal and so encouraging and so verbal behind them. And we miss them. And they're the lifeblood of the club. Often, not so much in recent times with the pandemic, but have a glass of wine with their chair and often say to him, he's not the owner, the fans are the owner. Fans own every football club and what they bring to it, and they're there for life. Owners come and go, although Paul Scully probably takes that away at 26 years service, whatever it is. But they normally come and go, and managers and players come and go. Fans are for life, and we miss ours badly, you know, and we're in tier 3, we can't even get a small percentage of them in. But hopefully with the vaccine coming in the UK, I think we all woke up to the pictures this morning, seeing the vaccine coming in the big lorries, whatever it is, through Kent and up into the country to spread. Let's get the vaccine done, and let's get back to some normality, and let's be driving up to football stadiums and fans walking to stadiums. Often talk about it at Priestfield. I've driven up to games and team coach. You see fans mulling around and walking to the stadium. They are the things that every boy and girl in the world today wakes up, wants to go and watch football.